Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland, and so here I am in front of Francois Guizot's house in London. So who was Guizot? Well, he's part of an extinct species now of scholar, statesman. So best known to have been Prime Minister of France at the time of the 1848 revolution. He was born in Nîmes, France in 1787, so just before the revolution, and born into a middle-class Protestant family. The Protestants comprised about 5% of the French population, and they suffered heavy legal disabilities since the evocation of the Edict of Nantes in 1685. And so the Protestants are mostly to be found clustered in the very edges of France. Well, in Nîmes isn't quite on the edge. Anyway, they're a very bookish family, and as a French-speaking family, you might say, well, that goes without saying. It doesn't go without saying. But there are about a dozen languages in France, like Canois, Niçois, Provençal, Occitan, Dauphiné, Basque, Catalan, Breton, Flemish, Luxembourgish, Alsatian. Probably miss it out a few. And so people would call their pays where they could understand the language. If you walk for too far, you could no longer comprehend people. Now, some of these, let's say Occitan or Dauphiné, are dialects of French. Others are not. So the aristocracy spoke French. The clergy could speak French, most of them, certainly the higher ranks. Some of the third estate, the higher echelons of third estate could, the lower echelons could not, and the peasantry could not, unless they happened to be from the Paris area. Anyway, so his father fell foul of the French Revolution, was executed in the Great Terror, when various revolutionary factions were accused of being this or that, or the French Revolution was riven by these schisms between the Montagnards, the Jacobins, the Girondins, and others, and accusing each other of being counter-revolutionaries and in the pay of Austria or Prussia, and so forth. So after the end of him, they carried on going. So he's a highly educated chap, but just known for his writing, really, a historian, and very unusually for a Frenchman of his age, he was fluent in English, and he was fascinated by the history of the British Isles. Wrote a history of Cromwell. So he managed to keep himself out of trouble in the time of Napoleon and the restoration of the Bourbons. Bourbons, of course, including like Louis XVI's family, and when they were overthrown, fled to this country, but coming back, Louis XVIII, Louis XVI's brother, becoming king again in 1814, chased away for the 100 Days in 1815, and then the pair, as they call him on account of his corpulence, came back again. He died after a while, and his brother Charles X inherited. Anyway, so he was finally overthrown in 1830, in July. The July monarchy came in, and that's who this guy worked for. That's who Guizot worked for. So Louis Philippe came in. Louis Philippe being a distant cousin of the Bourbons, and to show he was a revolutionary, he'd even changed his surname to Égalité, as in equality. So a new monarchy came in, and a somewhat reformed system. Previously, the Bourbons had almost turned the clock back all the way till 1789. But he was, so Louis Philippe was sort of playing a middle course between the two, of a fairly liberal constitution, of no longer discriminating against the Protestant minority, hence why Guizot gained preferment and held several cabinet posts, eventually rising to be prime minister. But it all gang awry for him in 1848, the year of revolutions, when he clamped down on dissent. He outlawed political meetings, so therefore various mayors had banquets. You haven't banned banquets, and really this was simply a guise by which a political meeting could take place. And I shan't recount the whole tale, but it resulted in a revolution in Paris, and Louis Philippe was sent packing. So was Guizot. He fled to this country, where he spent just a little over a year. Eventually it was safe for him to return to France, but in Vienna, a higher tax to raise funds for this war in the legitimist cause to put Louis Philippe back on his throne. Well, he's not really legitimist. He's le Duc d'Orléans. He wasn't really a Bourbon monarch. So Metternich, the Austrian chancellor, said we're going to have to tax people more. So there's a run on the banks. People are trying to get their money out because they don't want their money to be taken by the government, and that precipitated a revolution in Vienna. And there were obviously revolutions in Germany in March 1848, revolutions as far away as Venezuela. In Ireland, where the Young Irelanders attempting revolution, various other places. The French one's the only one that succeeded. Okay, and that's when, well, eventually they had Louis Napoleon Bonaparte as in the nephew of Napoleon the Great, him becoming president and later proclaiming himself emperor. So Guizot was able to return to his homeland and treated as an elder statesman, lived in some comfort in his declining years, and he concerned himself very much with the affairs of the church. Though he's a layman, because he's a Protestant, there was quite a big role for laity in the running of the French Protestant church. So he travelled to other countries quite a lot, particularly the Netherlands, and his daughter married a member of the De Witt family, a very distinguished Dutch political family, who had been resident in the Netherlands for some time. So that's Guizot, a figure who deserves further study, dipping into his very lively and rather literary accounts of history. Often it wasn't looking that far back from his lifetime, 2 or 3 centuries back from his lifetime, trying to avoid the errors of other statesmen by first of all carefully studying them. So Guizot, we used to call him Giza when I was at school. All right, I'll ring off now, so please follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook and so forth. Book online lessons with me, and make sure you hire me as your tour guide in London. Thank you so much for your donations of unexampled liberality on Patreon and on PayPal. GeorgeCallahan79@gmail.com. Right, as Super Ted used to say, cheery bye-bye.